What the hell is that?
Federation's new mobile suit.
The Gundam.
The Gundam.
I will stop the Gundam!
Hey, so I'm Gavin Hignight. I'm a writer right now known for writing Gundam Requiem for Vengeance, and I was also one of the producers on the project. Yeah, that's tough. So I think Gundam 08th MS Team is one I always just go back to. 08th MS Team was, I think, the first show that I really kind of sunk my teeth into. But I'm also a really big Gundam Seed fan. I loved Seed. I just religiously watched all the episodes. I liked Destiny, but I loved Seed. And then Freedom, I was so moved by it. I absolutely loved it. Not only the character's journey, but just knowing, what happened to get it made and what the creators went through. So I'm a huge fan. I love Thunderbolt. And what was a real treat for me on Requiem for Vengeance is that, we worked with producers who made Thunderbolt. And so I was getting to work with people I was a fan of. It was really cool. So my favorite Gundam mobile suit, that is a tough one because I think it changes with time. I always go back to the EZ-8. I love the EZ-8. But lately I've been really into that high maneuverability Zaku that we see in Doan's Island. They're what cool mobile suits. So I'm like, let's do more so I can play with one of those. Yeah, so that was just a super happy coincidence that Mr. Yamane, who is our designer, he did the EZ-8. So how cool is that one of my favorite mobile suits, was designed, or our RX or EX Gundam was designed by I mean, he's a legend. When he got added to the project, it's one of those moments where I have to keep my cool and not freak out. And I got to meet him at Anime Expo last year, and I was just so humbled because he's a very nice, very down to earth guy. And I'm like, man, you designed the Cowboy Bebop. This is incredible. He's super sweet. And now that I see the EX and the RX or the EZ-8, you can kind of see the synergy between them. It's pretty cool. But yeah, other than saying, it stomps out of the woods and it feels like a demon or it's scary, those words inspired him to go skeletal with the structure of the EX and let's give it red eyes and let's lean into, that this is for these people a bad guy, right? So, yeah, just really awesome synergy. That things I love were made by people that I got to work with on the Requiem. Yeah, so the approach to the Gundam for us, we always thought of it, we were very inspired, and I've said this before, so forgive me if I sound like a broken record. We were really inspired by a movie called Duel that was made by Steven Spielberg very early in his career. And in the movie, it's a guy in a car who's being tormented on the open road by this big, gnarly semi-truck. That keeps coming and trying to kill him, and you never see the driver. And that really inspired us because it's we're trying to get into the cockpit with these Zeon soldiers, and they don't have the benefit of knowing who's on the other side of that mobile suit. Often it's just this demon that comes and chops them down in a way. And so that was kind of the thinking as we approached the EX in this, is it was kind of a force of nature, which is not unlike Jaws or not unlike Jason Voorhees. I don't think we were thinking, let's do the slasher version of Gundam. I think it kind of naturally evolved into that because we were focused on the horrors of war paired with, here's an unstoppable like killing machine, right? And so that's kind of how the EX evolved. Yeah, so the writing process was definitely different or challenging in ways because we were putting ourselves in the Xeon cockpit. Uh, One of the things I love about Gundam compared to other IPs is that Gundam leans into the gray areas. You know, it's not like absolutes. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys. But that being said, you know, Xeon did some pretty awful stuff. They invaded Earth, right? They dropped a colony on Earth. They're not necessarily the good guys, but what I love about Gundam, and it took me writing this series to really truly understand this, the bad guy in Gundam is war itself. That's, you know, that is the antagonist. And because of politics, you know, because of our situation in life, there are people who end up fighting in wars and as soldiers because they think they're doing the right thing, or because, you know, they are told to. And after being in this, you know, conflict, we catch up with these pilots who, you know, they're not exactly sure where they stand on things when the show opens, because they've seen a lot of combat, and they've seen good and bad on both sides, and they're very aware that they're an invading force. Do they have their reasons? Yes. And the debate of that is what makes the show. That's what makes Gundam. Is, you know, I'm not saying they're right or wrong. It's them questioning it and their debate. That's what makes it. The mobile suit fights are awesome. We love that, but they would not have as much weight without that debate backing it up. Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you for asking it. And the question being the symbolism of like objects and people's past or their talents. And so the question is there a symbolism behind the watch? And for me, it's actually very personal. But I'll start with the violin. And we loved the idea that you meet this woman and she's a total badass, and she's very efficient behind the controls of a war machine. And then you find out before the war, before she was like basically drafted and put on this path, she was a violinist and doing like the most beautiful things with her talent and her, you know, spoiler alert, she's a new type. And it just, the haunting feeling of violin music was very important to Safe House, to the Gundam team, to myself, and it coming from, or being part of what Captain Solari is, was just all very important to the kind of the tragedy of war and taking someone out of this life of, you know, doing beautiful things and putting them behind, you know, the controls of a Zaku. The watch, you know, spoiler alert again, Solari loses her husband prior to the events of the show. And for good luck, she always hangs her dead husband's pocket watch on the controls of whatever mobile suit she's piloting. And that artifact, to me, it represents why she fights. It represents what she's trying to go home to. There's a reveal at one point in the show. You see she carries a photo in it of her son and her recently departed husband. And it's a reminder of why she's trying to survive when it's swinging around in the cockpit. And when I was young, my father worked out of the country, and I wouldn't see him for a long period of time. And going to get really personal with you here. He came back from one of his work assignments in Afghanistan and passed away immediately. Like he flew home, finished the job, and died. And I was 15 years old, and you can imagine how impactful that is to your life. What I didn't know is that he had brought back a pocket watch from Afghanistan for me as a gift. And my mom had held on to it secretly until I graduated high school and gave it to me as a graduation gift. And holding this watch, knowing that, you know, one of his last actions on our planet was to bring this to me. Just such an emotional, especially after barely finishing high school, because I was a kid and I'd suffered a lot of loss. To have this token, to have this memento presented to me that was carried from him across the globe, that clearly inspired, I never really even thought about it till you asked this amazing question. That's in the DNA of Solari, carrying this Xeon watch.
Thank you.
My favorite character in Requiem for Vengeance. That's a tough one. I love Solari. She exists for a reason. We put a lot into her. I think she's really dynamic. She's different from other characters we've seen in Gundam. It was really important for us to have a really, strong female protagonist. I hadn't, when we dreamed up Requiem, I hadn't seen Witch from Mercury yet, so I felt like, it's time. It's time. Let's put a really cool, captain in the pilot seat that's a female captain. But let's not do all the tropes and make stereotypes and make her let's make someone who actually, bleeds when they get hit. But they're awesome because they always get back up. And that was kind of the idea. But I will say that Alfie, I always go back to Alfie as maybe my favorite character. He's our mechanic. I like him because he's so real and he's kind of a moral compass in the series. And the pilots are great. We love them. But it's cool to get an interesting, sometimes I like some of the other characters who have other roles in the show. So yeah, Alfie's always a favorite. And our voice talent for Alfie nailed it. So yeah. So I'll try not to be too spoilery, but we have an awesome cameo of a character who comes over from OATHMS team. And I'm proud to say I pitched that to the team and they said yes. We all collectively knew it would be fun to bring someone in because we knew the timelines were very concurrent. And for me, and for those who've seen the show, it's like, it's a bad moment when he shows up. And it's like, who would you least expect to walk up and diffuse an undifusable situation with his ego and his pure bravado? And you probably already know who the cameo is because I say it that way, but that's kind of how he evolved. And the team at Bandai Namco Filmworks just helped me get it right. Oh, this is a tough one. I'm excited that so many people are asking us, is there season 2? Is there season 2? What happens? And in our heads, we know the path. We know what happens with the characters. It always, like much modern television, just depends on the success of the first season. So as crazy as it sounds, if you love the show and you want more, make sure you hit the 2 thumbs up. When you watch the episodes, tell your friends about it. We're very lucky that Requiem because Gundam has a huge fandom. There's lots of Gundam fans and we love it. I'm excited because I'm seeing non-Gundam fans come on board because of Requiem. We're very proud of that. So the more of that happens, the more, the show gets out there, the more likely all the stars will line up. But we know we want to do more. We know we've talked about ideas of what happens next. Hopefully we get to. We'll see. It's, in the stars.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, ToyArena. It's been a pleasure.